wonder if it should be so formal. Like, should we just like segue into it naturally, or should we like state that we're doing a talk? Because I could say that. I could say right now, welcome to Right Night, everybody.
It later.
I could continue and say tonight's topic is origins. I could be recording right now, and I didn't tell anyone. True. So welcome to Right Night. What's going on? Tonight, of course.
Right Night and Potluck.
Right Night and Potluck.
Soon to be Potluck.
Soon to be Potluck. We'll explain that, but first, as always, like to introduce everyone so we know who's here. Because, you know, there's going to be different people. I tell everyone, ignore the fact that there's a mic here. This isn't a podcast, even though it might be. You will not know right now, but it might be.
Until you hear yourself online. Then you'll know.
Yeah, podcast?
No, well, so
welcome to week 3 of Casually Talking.
So in that respect, I like everyone, since we get new people every time. And we do, in fact, every time, I find. So it is justified that we reintroduce ourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm Stephen Shanahan, Shaggy Shanahan. We also like to say what we write. Did write, do write, want to write. In the past, did a bunch of web comics, web series. Presently working on a bunch of anthology comics, the individual stories all merged into one, published in a book, and in the future, more comics. I'm kind of just dedicated to comics right now, honestly, because I've dabbled with the screen and not the stage. I was going to say screen and the stage, but I guess I haven't written a stage performance yet.
I won't call you.
Maybe someday. Yeah. Someday, I can dream. Yeah. And of course, but there's always more web series in the future. Who wants to take next? We just go the clockwise.
Jorge.
Yeah, man. Who are you?
Project.
Do, wanna, do.
Well, I'm Jorge Viveros, and I'm a writer of sketch comedy, and I'm starting to write a little bit more into horror kind of stuff, because that's the thing that I like the most. And I'm currently working on a live show that features my silent pieces, so I write mostly physical comedy, silent stuff. So pretty much cartoons.
Right on. Awesome.
I'm Jim. I'm also a comedy writer, much better than Jorge.
He likes to say that.
I'm actually in the same sketch troupe as Jorge, and I write a lot of the more verbally overwrought sketches. I've been trying to branch out into something more like fiction, science fiction, fantasy, maybe some sort of mishmash of the two. And I've been looking into starting a web series with a few compatriots of mine.
There you go.
And we'll see how that goes.
David Hull here.
Let's go like whisper, David Hull, your name's David Hull. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Don't be nervous. The red light means it's off. It's charging.
Yeah. So I didn't make that much progress since last week, which is a shame.
Oh no.
So
tell us what you haven't accomplished.
So what have I not accomplished? Working on a feature-length action script, a stalled-out novel with my sister that's sci-fi, and with Andrew to my left here, I'll introduce himself. We're trying to get this Sleeper Cell, a web series going again, and I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah, that's about it.
My name is Andrew Anthony. I'm a writer/TV editor, and I write plays. I write a little bit of everything. Right now, though, I'm working on a graphic novel, a movie, and a play.
Oh, you just
web series.
Wide
Renaissance, man.
I write a bit of everything. Yeah,
you also
I
act.
actually do. I have a novel. Yeah, I do act.
So that way you have another perspective on this, because you have interpreted the words of writers into very various mediums of the self. I was trying to make it sound cool. Speaking of cool, tonight's topic is really cool, isn't it?
Good. Yeah, segue.
You're good. It must be the ginger in you is from Conan.
Tonight's topic is origins, of course, and we can go a few ways with this. Of course, we always like to open with a quote that I sourced from Twitter to see if someone has something for me. We got Carol, who's been here a few times before, but you guys haven't yet to meet her. She will be back at some point. And she says, "There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your formal self." I'm not sure if that has to do with origins, unless you want to interpret it for me. That's just what she sent me. Maybe she didn't know what it meant by sending me a quote regarding origins. But hey, if you read something into that, that's nice. The other thing is, we want. Oh, do you have it? Oh, yeah. We want to start a trend of bringing themed foods or themed drinks this night. So we were thinking, orange juice because it sounds kind of like Origins. We didn't go that way, but what I did do is twofold because I went with Oreos. But
Nice.
the 100th anniversary edition, the origin of Oreos. It tastes like birthday cake. We're not going to eat during, so I'm going to put these away.
That's fine.
But I just wanted to
Because you
reflect
didn't
on
like
your
it.
Oreosians.
We should bring drinks, actually. If we had a drink to start with an O or something. Like orange juice,
OJ.
as we said. But yeah, so the topic of tonight is kind of interesting. We sort of addressed a bit of it with the Villains Night, because we talked about briefly if you need to know all there is to know about villains' past to appreciate their motives. It's like, why is he so angry? And it's like, well, let's take you back to grade school, and you're like, oh, I understand now. Do we need that? There's other routes we can talk about as well, about how origins have been modified when people reboot stories, and even with docudramas. How things have changed and has the integrity of someone's origin story changed for the sake of entertainment. Lots of ways to go. Let's kick off with the villains because I opened with that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? Do you need to know, like, we have prequels of Star Wars now to be like, that's why he's Darth Vader, and
You
we
get
bring
to
up
see him as a little kid.
I think it depends on why to know a lot of the villain, the story, because when in Star Wars, I think I found really interesting that Darth Vader, they build up that tension that Darth Vader destroyed all the Jedis and he did all these terrible things, so it kind of gives you an open mind of like all the terrible things he did. But now watching the episodes, the 1, 2, and 3, he becomes more of a tragic hero.
Yeah.
That became it starts being less evil and more tragic.
So does that kind of like ruin future watching? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like he's no longer a villain. I'm like, oh, he's choking that guy, but I understand
Yeah,
him.
exactly.
Kind of thing.
just like
oh, his mother,
inside.
bless
Yeah,
him.
it's just like, I don't want to do this. This hurts me more than it hurts me. But it can be sometimes good, I think, because on Batman, on the Tim Burton one, you know pretty much everything about the Joker, while on the new Batman, on the Heath Ledger Joker, you don't know anything about, and both of them work pretty well.
I wish Graham was here because he's our comic guy to go to, but supposedly even in the comics, I say supposedly,
I don't think anyone
there is no
knows
origin to Joker
there is
just
no
yet.
origin. No.
Like
there-
we've lost some
There's some
mystique
really
in many
close
characters.
calls.
Yeah.
Oh really?
There's some really good close ones. Yeah, one that I remember I got really excited for when they were like talking about who might play Joker.
Yeah.
Jacob showed Paul Bettany was a contender for a while, and he said that there was a certain Joker story that he thought Bettany would have been perfect for, in which they paint Joker as this like real genius, like Russell Crowe, a beautiful mind kind of thing.
Or technically Jim Carrey in the third Batman movie. a tragic genius hero.
My favorite one was
Not
that,
appreciated for
my
his
favorite
time.
one was that I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one where Jack kept seeing the rabbit in the moon, and he had a bunch of hostages hanging from a crane and explosions and made them swing into buildings. And
This is a comic? Or?
this was a great comic, yeah. Basically, he just has lost his will to live, so he's in the middle of this bank heist, and it's going perfect because he planned it. And he just sighs, rubs his gun to his temple, and like, out of boredom, he kicks over the gumball machine and sets off the alarm, and makes everything go to shit. And guns go off, smoke, hectic lights, chaos. He goes up to a cop after killing a bunch of cops, puts the gun to his own head, and he says, "Pull the trigger." And the cop gets really scared and nervous. And Jack opens his eyes, seemingly for the last time, and he sees emerging from the fog and the smoke, rather, Batman for the first time. And he just takes the gun, kills the guy with a knife, and then is walking dazed as though he just saw the love of his life. And he found his will to live.
That always was an argument that there wouldn't be so many costume villains if there wasn't a wacky Batman running around. Because it's like, well, you got to match his insanity of being a man in a bat suit, so you dress up for your little heist, you know.
I always think that villain. We were talking about Darth Vader going from villain into like a tragic hero, and I think that's the danger of an origin story, because origins have
Great empathy to a degree.
They stop telling us an origin story and they start just showing us early injection of humanity or the turn.
Yeah.
Like, when did they
The
turn?
fall.
And the thing is, villains aren't people who had a day where they go, "I'm going to be evil now." I think a real villain is somebody who is a believer, and and what they believe in is not a minority thing. It's single to them. And an origin story should not show us the twist when they decide to pursue being evil and going after this. It should rather show us why it's so important to them. And then you better understand why they are what you've always known them to be, rather than here's what they could have been until they turned evil. Here's what they've always been, but here's why they've always been this way. In a graphic novel I'm writing right now called Terminal, there's an entire episode that's almost like string theory. It's following chaos backward, and like after a day of just thousands of people dying, like a butterfly effect, like the chaos theory, you trace it back to the most simple thing ever. It's an 8-year-old in his room with autism who just wanted some chocolate milk. But in order to get it, he sees this whole pattern of things that have to happen, and he doesn't know that he's causing car accidents and people being hurt in order to get these little innocent things that he wants. So he's not this evil person. Like, I don't know, the nature of villainhood is always something very delicate to say.
Yeah.
That's all.
Like, we may bleed into the whole villain topic, so we won't stick on it too much. But
Exactly.
it goes that thing of, is a villain like just an opposition, or is it someone who really hates the hero? Like, that's kind of, but we could save that for the past episode.
Going back to, having origins and then origin stories, I mean, there's, that is two separate things, right? There's one thing to know about where a person's come from versus showing where a person's
Well, what are the origins? Or is it the origins of the person? Is it the origins of the cause? Is it the origins of their ability?
Well, this is actually one of the things I want to bring up on in regards to origins. And we'll talk about villains in comics.
Right.
We like to reboot our comics, and Superman comes out again and again. And it's always pretty much the same origin story. And there's actually two things I want to ask about this. One is, how much can you change the origin story before it's no longer true to the character anymore?
Right.
Or B, at what point does the origin actually end? Because the origin of Superman isn't just planet boom, he flies, arrives. It's also, and he grows up on a farm, and he meets Lois Lane, and he writes in a newspaper. So when does the origin end, actually? Let's stick on that question. When does an origin end, technically? Is the origin when a character stops evolving and they become, or is the origin just a matter of canon? Like, this is the old story, and now it's new after this.
Right.
Well, what is your origin story? Is your origin story like when Superman became the hero that he is today? Then that could arguably be when he put on the cape.
So everything up until that point
putting
is
on
the
cape.
origin.
So really, that's why it's all about clear decision making. You need to really decide what story you're telling when you're writing a story. If you're doing an origin story, what is originating? What is it? Yeah. So I mean, like, is Wolverine the man he was because of the claws? No, not at all. So his origin story is always going to be really delicate, which is why Hollywood could probably make as many origin stories. Oh my god!
X-Men Origins. We just branch that series.
Wolverine against.
I don't want to keep on jumping topics, but that's always the thing that I found sort of interesting is that every single film franchise, when they have a superhero, it has been an origin. We always start at where they came from.
Yes.
We already know them all so well.
But the mass audience,
I think that the biggest one is Batman Begins, because they retell the story again, and in Batman Begins, half of the movie is the origin.
Yeah.
And I think you ask when do an origin.
When does it end?
I was thinking of what you said too, and also what you asked is that I think, in my opinion, an origin ends when there's a problem. There's a situation on their life. It's like a superhero discovered this power, and a villain rise up, and that's when they need to fight him, or they need to beat that challenge.
You got a trial he needs to overcome, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So the character doesn't. It changes, but it's not the origin anymore.
Yeah.
It's part of the story.
So you're saying origin is not necessarily the whole tracked evolution.
It sounds like you're describing a phase in someone's life.
I think so.
This phase in my life is this obstacle, and these phases can last 10 years because of this obstacle.
I'm not
Is it
sure.
an obstacle?
I'm just saying when I'm talking in the film, the structure, when especially in a superhero, because they're very clear when it's pretty much they discover the power, and then they find out that there's a problem, whether it's the monster rise up, or there's a new supervillain that is causing problem. So that's when the superhero needs to think, okay, I got this power and I need to use it somehow. and save the
Would the first time they use it, would that be the final of their origin where you end it? It's like, you use the Green Lantern to beat that guy, now he's Green Lantern, for sure.
He has to achieve self-actualization.
Yeah, just like, hey,
when they decide they want to be, when they decide that
So
they're a hero.
once the helmet
When they
goes
decide
on
that
Darth
they're-
Vader,
pretty
yeah,
much.
I'm Darth Vader. Or was he Darth Vader when he kills Padme? I don't know. Like, what would you
I think he was Vader when he killed the Sand People.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Killed them all.
because they killed Mama.
Yeah. He gave in to anger.
He came just in time because she just died.
That
Seriously,
was pretty good timing, though.
It was excellent Jedi timing. She actually just said Annie, and then she did that death rattle side.
Jedi are punctual, if anything. I give them that.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so I guess to the point we could like overlook it and think like, is origin more of a definition, or is it what you want out of a story? Because you're saying it's, to a point. How did he get to this point, and that's your chunk of origin. You don't have to look too deep into that. I guess the other half of that question I had originally is, how much can we change the origin stories of these characters? We have all these reboots. We have the movie version. We have even fairy tales. Like, this isn't exclusive to comics. Fairy tales have changed quite a bit, and it's like, oh, Cinderella had 3 sisters.
There's an excellent example of this. I saw it. I've tried to pimp this movie out to people. I saw Snow White and the Huntsman.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's the thing.
They didn't promote the dwarves at all.
Had they,
I didn't know they were in the movie.
Here's the thing. Had they just called it Snow White, I would not have thought, based on the title, that it was some kind of Twilight-esque romance bullshit.
Yeah.
It was not.
But that's what they want.
The Huntsman and Snow White, zero chemistry
Nope.
of that nature. He had
Yeah.
no interest in her.
There's no point.
They each had loves of their own. There was no romantic bullshit. That movie, if you had a tally of elements from the animated Disney film and this live action one, everything was in it.
Wow.
Even the forest that was trippy in the animation,
Oh,
it was trippy in
wow.
real
All the
life.
scary
Because she
trees and
fell.
owls.
She fell on a mushroom that puffed out this like hallucinogen into
Yeah,
her
yeah,
face,
yeah.
and she just had this dark, evil, bubbly trip through the forest. Every single element from it was in, and the mirror was interesting. It seemed to kind of focus on the queen this time.
But the mirror was the goopy thing that
Yeah.
came out.
The
It's
mirror,
like,
was,
hey.
the mirror looked like it was a slab of gold or bronze that a bunch of people hammered to make it flat.
Yeah.
And it just would turn into silk, gold silk that
Oh,
would
that's
drape
cool.
onto the floor. And then, as though it were just water, this dude would emerge from the middle of it.
T2000.
And it would be like it was draped over him.
Yeah.
And he would
It's
just
a
talk to
gooey
her.
dude.
But here's the thing, she was fucking crazy. She was the only one who could see it. Someone was like watching her, and the thing was still on the wall, and she's talking to it, and it doesn't even show you reflection. It was very, very cool.
That's pretty interesting.
But anyway, so that movie is right. That movie's right up there with like, as far as like true to the source material, Super Mario Brothers movie. Because I told you last time, that one had everything. It had mushrooms.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
had mini bombs. It had double jumps. It had
It had all the elements.
It had
Super jump.
Goombas. It had Yoshi. It had ice tunnels. It had deserts.
Bullet bills.
Guys, it had everything.
But this is the thing that's actually a good point that you bring up, though, is that it has all of those elements, but does it have the
Is it in
actual
the right
tone?
order?
Is it the right? Because it's like, yeah, they.
Is tone a part of origin?
Well, I was gonna say it's to me it's the message, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's does it stay true to itself? That's really what matters when it comes to any of these interpretations. It has nothing to do with like if they get all those nitty gritty facts right. It's the same. It's an adaptation from a book to a film, right? Like, I don't want all the elements from a book to be in the film. I want I want it to be true to itself. And I'd say so. That's why the problem with a Super Mario's movie, it did have all those things, but did it feel like Super Mario? I would argue no. I mean, some people may say
I'd
yes,
say Super Mario themed like Road Warrior.
right?
Well, yeah, I guess it pretty much was.
Right,
yeah.
and so that's it.
It's like if
So-
you put a mod on like Rage or one of those games, and it's just like a Mario Paint.
Yeah,
Like, there you go.
and that's the thing. Like, to me, like if we talk about something like Ultimate Spider-Man, because Shaggy and I,
we talked
we've
about
talked
that,
about
yeah.
before,
Yeah.
is that did they change the origins of how he got bit and all that? Yeah, they changed that stuff, but he was still the same kind of kid. He was
Yeah, the
all
story-
the
the
time.
story-
He was
story's
still,
story was
you know,
still the
looked
same.
down upon by
Exactly.
his peers.
And so I would say that would be.
But we had really cool hair this time around, though.
See,
I don't know why
here's
people
I would say
still
that
do
was a
this.
solid job.
We're talking about origins.
He looks
Certainly
cool
you're
enough.
talking about reboots. 'Cause you
Well,
were
now
talking-
we are right now.
Well, I find they're both.
do you
It's,
feel they're one and the same?
they're similar because a reboot has to play with the origins, so you know you're reading the same storyline. Like, they basically want to attract new readers but keep the old. And my argument is, how far can you change an origin story for your reboot before you're like, this isn't
not-
it
it's
anymore?
not.
Like, okay, Spider-Man's on
Did you
the
guys-
web
did you-
now.
did
He
you-
works on the
Did
internet,
you guys
so I
listen
get
to the
it.
Nerdist with Max Landis?
No.
I'm not going to go into it because it's just going to be me spluttering his shit. But
I
he
watched the Superman one.
He has a movie pitch that will make you need to stand up if you were sitting when you were listening and just walk around. It makes your heart pound. It's this movie pitch where he only his pitch is described in the first act of the movie, and at the end of this pitch, the twist of it is that it's an origin story for somebody you wouldn't have thought.
Oh, don't say nothing then.
And I won't tell you what it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but the thing is, even without the twist, he was telling us a really interesting story, and it had all of the elements pertaining to the person he was talking about. So I think, on the topic of like, I don't think anyone should approach an origin story and treat it like a buffet line, going, what should I take and what should I change? I think they should just know what kind of story they want to tell, and then see what they need along the way, as long as you know the source material enough. I think that's my thought on that.
Well, to go back to Spider-Man, I'm glad you brought it up. Too,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
We all have, he's got to do the wrestling, so he has a reason to have a mask.
Yeah.
He's got to lose his uncle and great power, great responsibility. The one issue I actually remember a friend of mine talking about with the new Spider-Man that came out, reboot.
Yeah.
And they had all this extra importance to the parents' secret backstory.
Yes.
And why Spider-Man's now living with aunt and uncle. And the argument was kind of like, it was nice enough to know that he just, like, not saying nice, but it was just, and not to say simple either, but just,
He was a
this is
normal
life.
guy.
He
Yeah.
was a guy, there was no espionage and intrigue. He was just, grew up with his aunt and uncle. And it was just kind of like, this is life. But now watching the movie, it's like, Peter, we gotta leave you.
You were always part of a bigger world.
Yeah, and it adds,
yeah.
and it going, I don't want to keep bringing Star
no,
Wars,
you're
but you
right.
can't stop
Yeah,
bringing
yeah,
Star Wars
yeah.
back.
Right,
It puts
should've-
too much importance on this one character. Like, the world's destiny was,
Yes.
you were a core of this prophecy.
Yes.
The Spider Clan prophecy and all this kind of stuff. Like that guy, I was like, I don't know. But
No, it's like what
you're
happened.
right.
It's like with the Matrix, Neo Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
That's how a buddy of mine, Steve, describes the trilogy. He goes, it's the Matrix, awesome. The Matrix rebloated, and then Neo Christ
Rebloated?
Superstar.
Oh, definitely.
Well, it's just, I mean, I think that's just going back to the previous week about how you take these monsters and you change them for the temperaments of society at that
Yeah.
time. Is back in the day there was this big,
like
because
nuclear-
there's about people, immigrants coming into America, and anybody can make it, and it's up to you. Your guts. If you would put your mind to it, anybody can do it. So with Spider-Man, all those superheroes was you're a regular dude.
yeah.
All of a sudden, blam! It could be you, and now you have powers. But
Granted,
now,
all of them were scientists
right?
to some
Yeah,
degree. though.
yeah. But now, though, you're right. Like with Spider-Man and with these Star Wars, it's like it's changed, right? Like the Force used to be anybody could be a Jedi,
Yeah.
right?
Kinda
But now
popped up.
it's
You need
you're
the
a
blood.
chosen one, right? You're this, so it must be with how we are now and what we want to tell.
Isn't there some kind of gene inside of you that makes you?
Midichlorians.
Yeah,
Midichlorians,
midichlorians.
yeah.
So now it's like this importance, and maybe because it's how our parents are to us about just like do whatever makes you happy and everything will come to you, and maybe it's this whole, this emphasis on the world being revolving around.
Joining us in this conversation is Kawhi.
Hello.
Yeah.
How is everyone? Sorry, I
Doing
totally
good.
forgot it was Monday.
Forgot it was Monday.
Well, no, I forgot I was
Monday.
doing this. I was
Right.
like at the other CSI.
What was the origin of your lateness?
I was at the other CSI
Okay.
because I was volunteering there today.
I really wanted you to tell me that you had another conversation.
There's another group there.
Yes,
It was
yes,
the
yes,
ultimate
there's another
group.
writing
It was a mirror. It was a mirror side.
There's a
It's a
beard
writing
without a
group.
beard or something like that.
Yeah,
or-
I totally forgot
Yeah.
this week was this one and not that one. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta write that stuff.
So, Origins? Is this what we're
Origins.
talking
Yeah,
about?
man.
So what's happened so far?
Well, let's rewind. Don't worry, we'll catch you up because there's another thing about the origins one and about modifying it. I saw a bit of the new Steve Jobs movie, Jobs, whichever it is.
Ashton
It's called-
Kutcher.
With Ashton Kutcher, but the
Oh,
scene
yeah.
was that kind of classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's him and he
Ashton Kutcher as John.
has the hair and the beard. And who's the other guy?
Wozniak?
Wozniak. The scene they showed was the whole thing of like, we're gonna have computers, and he's like,
this the
Steve,
garage
nobody
scene?
wants a computer, Steve. You're never gonna make it. And they have like that kind of moment.
Did they have like
that's-
the Boogie Nights thing with his mom? Like, I am gonna amount to
Yeah,
things.
well, it was pretty much that moment, like even going to, what was it, Walk Hard, where it's like, you're never gonna make it, Dookie.
Should have been you.
You know,
the wrong kid
Well,
died.
more of like the wife being like, you know, he's like, I got like 12 grand. He's like, you're never gonna make it. And it feels like this origin story of Steve Jobs and like Wozniak has now been Hollywoodized, and they had to have it like, yeah, no one wants a computer, Steve. And apparently he's all pissed off about it too, because he's like, that's not how it was. Are we allowed to modify the origins of real life
Have a
for
biopic.
entertainment's sake? Even going to Social Network, where all this stuff is happening. Like, I enjoyed the movie well enough; it was epic, exciting. But should we frown upon like modifying people's perception of real life, like to change an origin for entertainment?
I still don't understand like the rights about it. How can you, are you allowed to depict?
It's based on like a
live person?
docu-book. You know, it's based on a
Yeah, you gotta go with like it's
biography.
inspired by or
Yeah,
based.
the events of-
I used to try to gauge after seeing enough movies what the percentage of truth was behind inspired, based,
Based.
set upon.
Sentiment.
I was like
Loosely
50%,
associated.
75%, maybe 25%. And it's
Inspired by the cover of.
like, exactly.
Inspired
Yeah.
is the least. I think it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
10%. I don't know.
Inspired's pretty thin.
But like you're using real people's names.
Yeah.
You're using real
But
company
it
names.
also
Isn't there like libel
it paints a
involved or
perception
something?
of what happened.
Here's and I saw a play recently.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be based on one of the first female, I guess, casualties in Afghanistan, like wherever, of the Canadian troops. And one of my personal, like I was giving notes to the friend who wrote it. One of the notes I gave was that they didn't take liberties with the storytelling or the character development, and I think it was because they were being too polite. They're sitting there thinking, I can't write who this person is because this person's dead. And I'm going off of what little the family's told me. I don't want to be presumptuous, and you know, and on the flip side of it is you just don't take any risks, and it became a boring character.
There you go.
Who just
You don't have that.
spluttered the writer's opinions, and used the other character as a bouncing board, and you lose the humanity. So I think that you do need to have an allowance to stray a bit. And once again, it comes right back to be clear on the story you're telling. Are you telling a story about Steve? Are you telling the story about Steve Jobs facing conflict, or are you just trying to tell? You know, maybe what they changed is incidental. Is what I mean to say. Maybe it doesn't.
It's
matter.
not incidental.
Not
Or something.
incidental, yeah.
Oh, but wait. Is this a beginning of a trilogy? It's like them starting Apple, and then he gets kicked out of
is it a
Apple.
three-part movie?
And then he starts
But, like, we all
Pixar,
know
and then he
history,
comes
though.
back. You know.
Nobody was ever like, fuck the computer. Like, the moment this thing got big, it just got big. Like,
No one wants a computer.
nobody wants it. You're out of your element.
Beginning of the third one.
Now go back. Take your paper and leave.
That's not technically true. Like the personal computers was a radical idea. Like IBM, who was the leader in computers at that time, thought you were idiots to produce a personal computer because no one would use it for home and personal use, and two, that it would be way too costly. So no, it was a novel idea.
Yeah. But whether it's true or not, like the point was Wozniak's like, that's not how it happened.
Yeah, probably
it
not.
didn't happen like that. Like, I don't know how he actually talks, but it's not like
They should make a movie about him complaining, but like him making that movie hard to make.
Yeah.
You can't make that. I'm going to make this movie. You just wait and see. Don't change the future.
The documentary's more interesting than the film itself. It's just like him running
Yeah,
around.
man. Did you see Heart of Darkness?
Do you want to? So
what's his name? Kevin James?
okay, we're
There.
taping this
Stop it.
right
we
now.
got
we went off
we
track.
have the new
Yes,
challenger. We got to drop in.
Okay.
We're not reintroducing everyone, but who's this?
I gotta speak into this microphone.
So
You basically got to say who you are, what you've written, what you are writing, what you
What
want
are you
to
writing
no
these
idea
days?
what
What are you
I'm-
writing these days? Or
Who
trying
are
to
you?
write? What are you
My
trying to
name
write?
is
Who are you?
Irfan.
So,
I mainly write short fiction and poetry. I'm working on a poetry collection and a short story collection. I submitted one of the short stories to the Commonwealth Writers Prize. I'm waiting waiting to hear back, and if I get on the short list, I will be overjoyed.
Best of luck
That's
to you,
about it.
man.
there you go. What do you want to write? In the future? What's in the future?
Novels, man. I gotta make my money. You ain't hear short stories and
Dollar
poetry,
bill.
especially.
People don't like.
Poetry, that's like the
You
one
do
way
realize
to-
what the moneymaker is.
Charles
erotic fiction
Bukowski
now.
disagreed.
Erotic fiction.
Oh, my shit's all erotic anyway.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's always erotic.
I read an article. It was in the light of step over there. 50 Shades. Canada's got the answer. And it's like,
Oh yeah, it's called Secret or something.
and it's the origin of this. If we're going to stick to the
about
theme.
a secret society
No, no.
that fulfills every woman's desire.
But here's the best
I think
part.
that's the tagline.
This is the reason the book was written. She was just like, my editor said, I said I'm not good at writing sex scenes. And my editor's like, I dare you to write one. So I wrote one. Now it's $1 million bestseller. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. Isn't that easy?
I made $1 million.
I dare you to write
Shaggy just has like. Do you remember the killer's apartment in Seven? He's just got notebooks and notebooks of sex scenes.
No, why
One
not?
of these days. I
All
can make
glowing
it.
in the black light.
I just want you to be like, dare me to write the best.
Dare me.
Dare me to write the best.
I love guys who
God,
need to
man,
do
they're
things,
gonna write
but
the worst
they
sex
want to
scenes.
do
They'll
it.
always be the best. You're like, oh,
You just
I
have
just
to
need
sit
someone
there.
to provoke them.
Yeah.
Actually, I was reading. What is it? What's that award with the worst written?
Yeah, I read that. The word
No,
sex
not the
scene.
Razzie, but like yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's the
yeah.
narrative.
There's one where there's
Figuring Rowling got shortlisted on that
Yeah.
with her new book. She didn't.
No, she didn't.
No, she got
didn't.
de-shortlisted. Sorry.
She was
Wait, you said
apparently
Kelly
too
Rowland?
good of a
Like, that's
writer.
No, not
And then
Dustin
50
JK.
Shades didn't count because it was erotic fiction. It has to be a non-erotic fiction.
But funny enough,
Do you know who
most
should have
of
won was Chuck Palahniuk and did that ever win something?
Yeah,
I don't know, but the majority
Why
of
was so bad
the
about that?
shortlist was male
It
writers
was
for
really,
whatever
really
reason.
well described.
Oh, some of it was really
Most of
bad.
them were male
Like,
writers, and
God.
they can't. I don't know. They
I
just
was
don't
young.
get it.
I was on a bus and I like had to put the book away because
Oh, I've been doing that all the time. I'm trying to read Little
Wait,
Bird.
what book was this?
I was reading Choke for the first time.
Oh,
just
what
like
was
a year.
Choke? What's so wrong about Choke?
I
I've read Choke.
in
It's
the
okay.
early part when he's having sex and they're doing the around the world.
I
I'm
don't
assuming
quite
it's
remember
about
this. I don't think.
sex, I don't know.
It was a long time ago since I read Choke.
Yeah, no, he's at a. Wait a minute, am I going off of Chokers? Am I going off? No, not Fight Club. He didn't go to Sexaholics Anonymous either. But no, this is Choke. In Choke, anyway, he's kind of taking advantage of this girl at a sex addicts meeting. I guess that's where he picks women up. And they're
Isn't that Fight Club?
It might be Fight Club.
I think that's Fight Club.
Yeah. I had that in Choke on me. Either way, Palahniuk has this way of writing sexuality in general. I know it was something in Choke, but I put the book away. I was on the
feel
bus.
dirty in a public place.
See, this
Yes.
is where e-readers come in handy. It's
Yeah.
just like no one needs to know. And this is actually, I know from the research, this is why e-readers are selling better now because no
You
one
can
needs to
read
know what
erotic
you're reading.
fiction.
You don't have to buy fake covers anymore,
Yeah.
and you don't have to take off the slipcover either. It's just, it's all there. So when you see people like fanning themselves on the bus,
Seriously,
you know what they're doing. They're
Dude,
like, oh,
I've never
oh
been
my.
in that situation before. I was like, oh my god, is this what this book is? I was like rereading the back. I'm like, what have I gotten myself into?
But the thing is, I don't understand. It's less easy to figure out what you're reading, but you can still see what people are reading. Like
Well, you're
if
not
it's
over
like-
their shoulder and like.
Why? What are you doing when you're looking at an e-reader? There's no hard going on there, buddy.
Okay, I've been telling you the situation. It was a rush hour subway train. I was in the corner where like the door is,
Yeah.
and you know you're next to like the glass, and then someone's sitting right there, right?
Yeah.
Someone's sitting right there with an e-reader. I'm like, I'm trapped from outside, so I'm glancing over.
I'm gonna
and
read
like,
your book. I'm
Yeah, like, don't read what you're reading as you read it. And it was like, oh, okay, it's 50 Shades.
I find people are self-conscious about that, even with like the Metro newspaper. Like, don't read my newspaper.
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on.
I just get.
I scribble in my own racism. You're not. This is for me and for me alone.
I just walk into it when I'm just reading a manga, and all of a sudden there's naked ladies, and I'm like,
Oh my god,
and I'm like,
I
do I
read manga
stop?
really
do I stop now?
tight and,
Because
like,
I
close it.
I have to read something.
We just kind of like.
Oh no, he's pulling out the tentacles.
What?
But it's not like it's gratuitous.
that's
It's
the
just
Yeah.
it's just a bit questionable if someone sees you. So it's always like I'd make notes. I'm like reread that page, see what the scene was. How important it was to the story.
People are already half expecting to see like titties when they like
Yeah.
pop their heads over. Then you'd be like afraid, like, all right,
Yeah, true.
comes in the territory.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were we talking about?
Origin.
We're talking about origins. I only have a few more questions in my mind, but my question to you was: does like an origin have to be so significant and modified? Like do you need magnificent things in the past of a character to make them important, or
Well,
can they just not have a normal life?
You want like a pivotal point where they become not normal, right? Like if they start normal and then something happens to them and then they're no longer immortal. Because you want them to be both, right? You want them to be great but relatable.
So it's
Yeah.
an origin for you to change.
But I think it's also like just a change in the cultural zeitgeist because it's like they don't make movies like Die Hard anymore. You don't have like an everyman. Right? No, honestly, like every action movie nowadays, the hero's always some kind of crazy. Like Django Unchained, he's like comes out from being like a slave to being the best.
Became a really good
fastest guy
sniper
in the
really
world.
quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like everyone is exceptional nowadays. There's no such thing as
Wait, are we saying Bruce Willis's character in Die Hard isn't exceptional? The guy can't get killed.
No.
Yeah,
We're talking
but
about Die Hard
he-
1. We're not talking about Die Hard now.
Die Hard 1, he was just a man in the
Just like
wrong
a dude
place
in
at the wrong time.
He's really lucky
Yeah.
at the end of the day, but like
Yeah.
Yeah, they put through every bit of torture that they possibly can. in that
You
film.
got pretty roughed up. You don't see it that bad. Like I only saw Die Hard recently, like in the last few years. I never saw it when it first came out for years.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, I'm being like, this is so different from everything that came after it. I feel because it was all action and explosions and
Lethal
hero.
Weapon.
He was an emotional wreck, and he's on the walkie-talkie with the cop, and that's the only thing that keeps him going.
Well,
Like,
that movie is
you get
basically-
so invested in Die
that was
Hard.
like the death of the macho action hero after that film.
Was it after?
Before that,
Before?
it was well.
I'm gonna say,
General.
I totally
You know what I
agree.
mean? Like-
I totally agree about you saying that masculinity was now allowed to include vulnerability.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Lethal Weapon, it came out really close around the same time as Die Hard, and in that they have a scene talking about the new man. It's when Murtaugh first gets to the office on his birthday. Some guy's in his office and he's like, last night I cried myself to sleep in bed. And he goes, were you alone? And he goes, yeah, that's why I was crying. And it's supposed to be kind of tongue-in-cheeky, but it was really cool watching men kind of go like gruffly like, nah man, it's okay to have emotions. Like they're sniffing it off.
Say it back to you.
And then you get Riggs, who the reason he even got cast as to do Hamlet was the scene where he's gonna eat a bullet. That was where Zeffirelli was watching that scene, and he goes, "That's my Hamlet. The guy to be or not to be is right there." And there's such human emotion in that movie. But I couldn't agree more with you. It's Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. That was those two films on a meta level are the origins of the metrosexual
I
man.
was about to say that. I was about to say that. I was about to say the same thing.
Just,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
just wear the pink blouse afterwards. That's pretty trendy at the time because everyone was doing that. It was a
Yeah,
big deal.
salmon.
Yeah.
Salmon?
A
It wasn't
step-
pink, it
do you
was
know what?
salmon?
Yeah, salmon.
I'm
It's
sorry.
kind of orange and light red. All right.
All right, I'm sorry. I
Orange
didn't
and
go
light
that
red.
far off it.
Nobody seems to. I grew up with a movie that no one even heard of. It's with Sylvester Stallone, and it's called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah.
So fucking good, and no one pays attention to that. She put his gun into a soapy sink to clean it, and he comes home and he's furious and he can't fire it. And you know those jokes of the old ladies who are driving and they can't see over the wheel?
Yeah.
That's his mom, and she's got a gun. Start the movie. This movie was amazing, and no one knows about it.
I always remember the cover of that. Of that VHS.
I'm just assuming we are. Yeah, just
You know, it is.
You're being too loud in your creative environment.
they were looking over. I just thought to shush
That's
myself.
fair. That's fair.
That's loud.
You're allowed to get upset.
Yeah, and their door's closed. You know what, guys? Let's just go get them. That escalated fast.
Lord of the Flies, right there.
Do you know I had a teacher who lost her mind in the 9th grade?
Okay.
No, she was right.
Front of
She was our English. No, she was a sweetheart. She was in her 70s, but her husband died, and she handled it really poorly. She started coming to class wearing his clothes and such to feel closer to him. Started teaching his classes. It was real heartbreaking. But we were learning Lord of the Flies, and she came in his old military outfit, and she was just Batsy, and she had us take the legs off of desks and chairs. She had 2 mason jars full of pop tabs, and that was currency. And she split us up into 2 factions. You each had currency, and then she turned the fucking lights out. And that was the class. She said, have the most currency by the end of the class, and you'll understand Lord of the Flies. So we had the legs. And these are the metal ones, too. You know the really shitty ones that, if you were moving your desk and it landed on your toe, you were done?
Yeah.
Those legs.
Did you go to the school that became Battle Royale or something? That's almost like
The only light
put on
that
a
came in,
bus and-
she taped construction paper on the door window, so we only had what light ambiently kind of pissed through that crack.
Did someone die?
No. A lot of people got hurt. Like there was just bruises and cuts and gashes everywhere.
Yeah.
And someone almost got like something in the mouth, like a leg went in the mouth, and they thought they lost a tooth and shit, but they only chipped it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Only shipped
But
it.
she was a part of the union.
Seriously?
She was
Honestly, she was bad.
She had tenure,
I
so
was
she-
waiting for in the darkness of this room just to see like Aragorn, the flare of like her pipe or cigar, just like,
Yeah.
all right, kids. Like she was crazy. So needless, to, I got good marks ultimately. They changed up. The
Did you
teacher.
win? Did you have all the coins? You're like,
Yeah. You know, Shaggy, nobody won.
The title of the title, I want like your origin is fascinating. All of a sudden. I want to know about your how you became what you.
Do you know what David Cross had an autobiography called "Why I Drink"?
Yeah,
or I
yeah.
think Reasons
I
I
listened
Drink.
to that, yeah.
It's an excellent book, a really good read. But one thing I wasn't a fan of was he had this chapter where he began it with, "I could tell you this story about me."
And you wanted to hear that story.
And he gave you 3 really good stories. He goes, I could tell you about how I lost my virginity to a black hooker in Times Square when I was 17.
Yeah.
And And it's like, why don't you? I almost felt like it spoiled his origin for me. I feel like everything I got was just a watered down towing. And I can't blame him. You have to be very brave to write about yourself. But it was towing the water, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe come back. I'll come back to your book too. So it's on the topic of when you're saying, you know, what do you pick and choose about the origins? I guess yourself is the hardest choice, because I mean, what's important that makes you you? So if you're doing an origin story for Spider-Man or Superman, what's important that makes them who they are? So is it, you know, we were saying Wolverine earlier, is it the claws? Is it the regeneration? Is it the adamantium? Is it the personal relationships that have been systematically destroyed around him? Is it all of these things? Is it one more than the other? I mean, that's why Origins, so many people can get really, really pissed.
Or the fact that Wolverine has the original.
Was?
Yeah.
Oh,
The original, very first X-Men with Wolverine in it, he was just a werewolf that turned into a human by magic.
Hey!
And then they decided that
I really
that
like when magic kind of creeps in.
Wow, I didn't know that part. I'm kind of happy they modified it slightly.
I'm very, very happy.
I learned something today.
I like that he's Canadian.
I think every Canadian like
Every
that.
Canadian, that's like
That's about all we got.
cling to
Next
it
to
so
Captain.
hard.
Nobody pays attention to Captain Canuck.
Yeah, next to Captain Canuck.
Not cool.
Who by all degrees should be our Captain America. Like, he should be our like go-to.
Doesn't-
Well,
Well,
they're trying to
have
make a movie of a live action movie.
Of Captain
Of
Canuck.
Captain
Yeah,
Canuck.
his
Make,
rights
like,
got
Maple
his rights got,
Pictures? Who's
got purchased like a few years
I don't
back.
even think
What,
he
by
has.
the
He doesn't have a
Nikita?
following in any medium though. Like nobody really
Not
cares.
even
No
the
one
comic
cares
media.
about
They
The name Captain Canuck just kills it right there.
Marvel was going to do something that, you know how Pixar has a little short before the movies?
Yeah, yeah.
Marvel wanted to do short 5 to 10 minute little,
Captain Canuck thing.
they wanted to take all of the superheroes
Yeah.
that wouldn't hold a 2-hour movie
Oh, and do a
and
10
give
minute
them their
film.
own little short film.
Why did they? That'd be cool.
Yeah, and they were going to like cast like Nathan Fillion was going to be the first one in front of Avengers. He was going to be some kind of, I think it's a Bumblebee hero they have that isn't really popular.
Why did
but
they cut that?
I don't know why they didn't do it, but it's.
I
thought
think
it was a
instead
really
they made the
nice-
Shield series that's coming out now, so they'll just jam them on there.
I went to an
somehow.
audition a month after getting back to the country, and as I was passing the door to get to my door, I saw the sign that said they were casting for Shield. And it was like upstairs, and I thought, ooh, don't do it. Because here's the thing. You can walk into an audition, so much more wrong can happen than good, because those things are like.
Small community.
You don't understand. Like, what if there's lines? What if it's for female characters only? And it's like, this is these are all very plausible things. And I thought, I'll just daydream and walk away.
Yeah, because you sometimes hear the cattle call story where it's like, oh, my girlfriend was going to this all-female
So I
audition,
showed up.
but I walked in anyway, like, you, get in the booth, kind of thing.
That's
It's like,
Johnny
and
Depp
now I
and Nick
got the
Cage.
role.
They were
you
just
know?
like walking around. It's like,
Yeah, that happens. That was what was that documentary, The Kid Stays in the Picture, where he was just like, I was at a swimming pool, and she spotted me and said, you, get in the pictures. And he's like, okay. And that's how I became and
everyone
produced The
sounds like the guy
Godfather.
who challenges Steve Jobs.
You'll never make it.
You'll
she
never
said.
make it. Yes, stupid.
So did you get the role?
No, it was for a guard who gets garrote wire to the neck.
Ooh.
Just
And-
like we were watching.
Hang on. Oh, it's exactly that. And you had to go in there and just like
Get roped?
you had to pretend to get a radio transmission in your ear and say, "Yeah, got it," and then. And here's the thing: I hate going to auditions for things where I already know I'm not physically set for it, and it's only happened maybe twice where they've asked for a cop or a soldier, and I'm like, "Come on, man! I'm the desk clerk who doesn't want anyone to get hurt. I'm Scrawny McGee. You can't put me." And I'm in the waiting room, and there's these big muscular guys who are looking at me like, "Are you here to read with us?" It's like, no. I'm here to pretend to be your bicep, which is bigger than me. Where's my sweater?
To hear from everyone, what's everyone's favorite origin story? Is there anyone that really sticks to you? Like, yeah, I respect that. He's got a good start. The way he became what he became. Maybe Steve Jobs' origin story inspires you.
I have to admit, he's actually kind of looks like Steve Jobs with the hair and stuff.
Yeah, well, he has the hair and the beard.
He's probably too tall. I know Steve Jobs was pretty tall too. Yeah, I can't think of it.
Is there one
They
that
also
like
put
you
cancer on
defend? Like you can't change Wolverine from being an anamorphic Wolverine. I will never read Marvel again.
Can this be in any medium?
Yeah, go nuts. I know we stick to comics because that tends to be what.
I know, because I was going to say,
most often.
from what I've heard, I haven't read it yet, but Superman Red Sun.
That was interesting, yeah. If the planet was slightly tilted the other way,
Yeah, he could have
went
landed,
to Russia
because
instead.
he serves the American way. It's like, what if he landed in Russia?
Yeah, and he becomes El Presidente. Well, not El, but he becomes President of Russia or something like that. That was an interesting read.
Honestly,
becomes Dolph
you
Lundgren.
guys do have to pull up the Max Landis movie pitch, because that would have to be my favorite origin story.
Yeah.
Just the pitch.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
You have to listen. No
You have
spoilers
to-
here.
I won't do it justice, and I don't want to rob you of that. Like,
Wait,
you guys-
what is it for?
It's on a podcast. He has a pitch of a movie he'd like to write, but it's a story he would like to tell that happens to be an origin story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking deep into it.
What are some answers? What are your origin favorites?
Is there one, like, there was definitely a time where everyone just fell into goop and became super, so that kind of got weak. But is it that one story where you're like, oh man, he's self-made?
Self-made Superman.
Dr. Horrible? I'm just delaying too. I'm having a hard time thinking. I just came up with it.
Mine is like the movie version of Jason Bourne. I have no idea why.
Because he came off a boat? Or?
He got shot because he didn't want to kill those kids. Or he didn't want to kill their dad in front of those kids.
And then he started running.
Well, I mean, on the topic of origins, how did people feel about X-Men First Class? How did you feel about Magneto?
Oh man, I
And that
enjoyed the
movie-
dynamic a lot. They work together really well, and I like.
Does that count as an origin story for Magneto? Do you think?
Yeah,
And if so,
sure. No, definitely.
I'd have to say that was a very good origin story.
Definitely does.
Like more so than just the clip of him pulling the fence in the
game.
camp. Like that's
Much more
just a
than-
snippet, you know.
Kevin Bacon, who that wasn't a character, that was Kevin Bacon being sadistic to him, and him going to Brazil him going to Brazil to confront those Nazis and such. Like it's, I don't know. You really understand. And I'd have to say he came to fruition for me when he was on the island, and Xavier said, "No, they're just following orders." Everyone in the theater, I sense, went, "Oh, you did not just say that to him," because you just saw how many Nazis said that to him growing up. It was an amazing moment. I'd have to say that would be one of my favorite origin stories.
That was really well told. Like I also just really enjoy how Xavier, we all know him to be like from the cartoon, being like, "Oh, X-Men, we gotta do this."
No, he was he picked up women and shit.
But you see, like, he was, you know, compared to the upbringing of Magneto, like he had a very sheltered, kind of spoiled life, and his optimistic outlook that everyone can be friends. And it's just like you almost pity him to be like how ignorant he can be, and you side with the Brotherhood to a degree, being like, oh, they're kind of right. Take that, humans.
On the topic of the nature of origins, I was wondering what I thought this night was also going to be about is about the origins of ideas.
Oh,
sure.
For instance, we discussed 2 weeks ago how sometimes things that we originate and create are responses to things that we've seen. A dissatisfaction to a story that we thought, no, it should have ended this way, and then we write it our way, and that's an origin story. And like, for instance, like I'm writing a film right now about a biker gang, and like a little boy who lives amongst that gang, and it's about his story of growing up and age and get out of the gang. That originated from one scene of Charlie Chaplin's The Kid, when they're hugging each other and they're being torn apart from the law. That's an example of an origin. So on that note, do you guys know of any origin stories in that respect that speak to you?
A long time ago, we were having this conversation with a film that we wanted to make about. It was just like you described the poster that you had seen. It was two guys, like a Spanish gangster and this big fat Italian dude with guns to each other's head, and then you proceeded to go through like the entire backstory of how they get to that one point.
Yeah, I can't even remember that.
That's interesting. An image.
Yeah.
That happens.
I often think about that though. You're right though, like a moment, a specific moment, and
how you
how
build up
can
to
you
it.
how can you get to that? Like a lot of times I have an idea of just like seeing a guy and a girl in bed, and you see out the window just the red and blue lights of the police. And they, he whispers something to her, and then he gets out and walks through the front door and gets handcuffed and put in the back of the car, and like what happened? And then what happened? Exactly, what happened? Why? How did it come to this or whatnot? I think there are a lot of those moments because there's so many different ways to go about it for sure.
Also, origins are sometimes opportunities to peek behind the curtain a bit. I think when you know an origin on a meta level, you kind of learn a little something new. Like the creator of the polygraph test, the lie detector, he and his wife are into bondage as well. And he also happens to be the man who started Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Who has a lasso of truth. This guy. So you understand the origins. So even if you understand the origins of Wonder Woman on a meta level, if you understood like who created her, this guy who's obsessed with truth and bondage. It's like it's really
truth and bondage.
Origins are insightful. Insightful in both directions. What I mean to say, yeah.
Okay.
So if any of those came out, I was interested in.
I guess the thing is like a lot of times, and this is more. And I feel about it more for the future and whatnot, but it's you watch a movie, you see something, and you really enjoy that slice of life. But I just like to have the memory or the ideas in my mind of what could have come before, what could come after. Sometimes when it gets explained, then you're like, well, it's like Judgment Day, right? Like Judgment Day was ruined for me after that movie came out because it was. I mean, I know that's the future,
somebody judged,
but it's the past, right? But it's like. I can always create something better in my mind
obviously.
than it can ever.
Because it's catered to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what you.
And that's what's really tough with origin stories. Like you have such a huge obstacle to overcome if we already know a predetermined. Like if an origin story is coming after. I mean, like if we already know. About
you read a prequel
character.
type.
That's what I mean. If we're doing prequel origin stuff,
it has to.
It can be very tough because of that.
Sometimes. Origins doesn't even have to be the beginning of someone's story. You could be originating this person's story in this aspect of their life.
Oh,
Hansel and Gretel, that movie. I haven't seen it yet. I hear it's entertaining as hell as a good or bad movie, if you know what I mean. Like we've all seen bad movies that are still good.
It's the same guy.
You don't analyze it.
So Jake, my best friend Jake was pointing out things that he thought were actually kind of smart about it, like weird things that poked his head out of the water, and he went, "Oh, that's weird that it was in this movie." And one thing he loved was Hansel is diabetic. Fucking fed candy from a witch in a house. It's like, of course, like that makes perfect sense. And I love that somebody had the care to. Now you are adding stuff. You are changing, like much like we were talking about, but it hasn't hurt the integrity of the character. No. If anything, it feeds the storytelling.
That's more what.
Because they made a choice of what story they wanted to tell.
Well, talking about what David said, like I hear a lot of people complain about Boba Fett's reveal of his origin in episode 1 or 2 or whatever.
Django,
Yeah.
Like that kind of killed it for a lot of people.
But here's the thing: it's an origin story for a character who had 3 minutes and 17 seconds screen time in the initial movies.
Universe.
No real dialogue of any substance.
No. But like in the extended universe, there are like entire books
and he's cool.
Of him. Yeah.
He's cool. Those 3 minutes were the coolest moments of your life.
That was a snippet of what he's capable of.
Han accidentally defeats him.
Do you know what? When I was in Bristol, if you walk down like toward Nicholas Market, there's just this. You go into this. I guess it's a narrow building where you rent out the space and you sell your shit. A lot of fashion people rent these floors out to sell their designer shoes and their homemade clothes. And they make a good penny off of it. But in the basement, there's this guy tucked away in the corner, and I guess he laid out a carpet much like the one behind you. It's about twice that size. And he put up his own shelves and such, got a little cash register, and it's just a little corner. It's no bigger than this floor space here. And I look at him as this tucked away thing on the entire planet, the biggest Star Wars fan I've ever met. Every shelf has like dusty, original first made shit, everything you can imagine. He has every. I'm not even gonna babble the list, but I will cherry it with his entire body is tattooed with the story of Star Wars, like including novels. Like the lower half of his body is in the novel stuff. It's like, and it's all images. Like these little depictions, these little tableau things of all the struggles in the universe all over his body. Doesn't care about making a penny. Just likes to show all his. I don't think he wants to sell anything. If you want to buy something, he just jacks the price until you say no. He's a fan, and that's what he does. I know it's off topic. I thought you guys would appreciate knowing this man exists.
I have to ask, does he have a tattoo of Chewbacca getting hit by a moon? Because that's where that arc goes, unfortunately. I'm curious if we captured the moment.
I want to be. Honestly, I'm so glad that Disney bought the Star Wars.
To see where it's gonna go.
Well, one of my dream roles in life, honestly, is to be in a Han Solo movie just called Solo. But here's the thing, now it would be badass. You know, he's on his way to become a stormtrooper, and I think his actual origins is he sees other stormtroopers beating the shit out of a young Wookiee, and that's Chewbacca, and that's how they befriend. And he walks away from it. It's like Rambo, you know, just two guys walking on a road now, leaving the army. And here's where I would end the movie after this excellent kind of growth and all that jazz. You end it in the tavern. And you hear the dialogue from episode 4, and you know where you end it? Han shooting first. Draws his gun, and the sound of the laser is what directed by. And that's where the Solo movie ends. Buddy, I've been writing this for a while now.
I imagine you're ready. For some reason, the Millennium Falcon does like an Easy Rider though, like that. And it's just like this road, it's like dust and everything. It's like he's so badass. Yeah.
I want to be in that, and I want to be in a reboot when I'm like 36 of Lethal Weapon with Sam Jackson as my Murtaugh.
I'm getting too old.
Get too old.
He looks so old.
But here's the thing: he's Jacob pointed this out. He's wonderfully real life old and Hollywood young. Because he can just bounce back and forth. It's like, oh, you need me to be old? Sure, put some gray tuft on my head, and I'll grow my facial hair out. And other than that, it's just like, I'm bald. It's like how he does it, I do it, Vin did it, Bruce did it. You're bald, you're timeless. Dean from Community does it.
Yeah.
There you go, knock all the years off.
No one can guess what you want.
Yeah, my scalp is 2.
One question I actually had about writing characters. We sort of touched on this with films again, but the idea of when you write a character, you do want to give a bit of a backstory and origins. Do you guys write like not show the audience, but do you have a lot more of their backstory in the back of your mind, just a resource to being like, why would he be scared of that? Oh, because this happened. I'm not going to tell anyone that though.
I mean, it's a way of maintaining consistency. Otherwise, like, you get parts that just like conflict so badly.
Yeah. Too often people misconstrue being a creator with having all the answers. When you're writing and creating, a lot of it is discovery and detective work.
Yeah.
Even as a reader, like as an actor with a play, I'm a detective, and I'm looking through this play for everything everyone says about me and everything I say about myself, and then I determine what I do and who I am. And a writer does that too, and he's putting words on the page. I mean, we've all had something where we went back and went, why the hell did I write that? And it's like, but it kind of works. And you realize, oh, it could work because of this, and now you've created something.
Yeah.
And
you give them that quirk, and all of a sudden, then you have to have a reason why they have that said quirk.
I think it's like if you guys were to write a good joke, right, and a tag came up without even meaning for it. Tag after tag, next thing you know. Yeah,
absolutely. You never stop, like, trying to improve what you have. Like, if you have a character, you want to make sure that character is as complete as possible, even if you don't show everybody everything that character is.
For me, I think the number one reason why I need to do that for a lot of characters is if I don't, they all sound like me. And so I need to give them backstories that I can be like, now that I have a slant, so this person will be angry in this situation, this one will be scared in this situation. And otherwise, if that backstory isn't there, then then it's just me doing my own thing. I just saying whatever I would do, right? For 5 characters.
That's how being John Malkovich was made.
Right?
Malkovich.
I don't know. I think I saw this video where Dan Harmon, like community creator, was like, how he created a character was like you pick like 6 characteristics out of like people you like or don't like or whatever, and then you try to combine them into one person that makes sense. Like if they have all these characteristics, what kind of past must they have had to have that they become that person or something like that, right?
I have that happen when a character is met with an obstacle. I first decide how easy it will be for them to overcome it, and if it's hard, I have to answer why. So I think whenever we're challenged with the big questions, when we're forced to find those answers.
Like I work in literature a lot, so I have a chance to talk to both of authors, and like I think this is the case with me too. Is just like it really character creation is very dependent on the type of writer you are, right? Like some people are just pantsters who can kind of just create that story and get their first draft done, and once they get their first draft done, then have somebody read it and be like, here are all the logical inconsistencies. Like this is that character, like it's the same situation, they're acting completely different for no apparent reason. Then you're like, okay, now I can go back, because I feel like in my case, especially with writing short stories, like every character is just like they're the embodiment of a function, right? They're an embodiment of a theme. So like, especially short stories, you just have to like boil them down to like their.
So they don't feel they don't feel real in a way. Is that
like they can be real, but I think if you try to put in too much about the type of like, if you try to create too much about them, then like you create too much ancillary stuff, and a short story has to be like no facts, and just like get right down to this is what the story's about.
I guess you don't always have the answers either.
Yeah, exactly.
Pinter, in England, Pinter was he wasn't directing his own work, but he was there for the rehearsals. And somebody, after one run of a scene, said to him, "Hey, my character, why does he say this?" And Pinter said, "It's none of your fucking business." I love that. The idea, and he felt it was none of his business either, even as the writer. He's like, "It's none of my business." He just he said it. I don't know either.
He's his own man.
Yeah. He's set in his ways.
Kind of going back to origins, like I think there's something really interesting. Like I remember reading an essay a while ago about the differences between Japanese literature and Japanese films and like the American films. And one of the primary differences that exists is like American or Canadian or Western kind of films. We always have like a desire to know everything. Like there has to be like that explanation between like why are there monsters coming out of like the Pacific Rim or whatever that new Guillermo del Toro movie's called, or Pacific Rift, I don't know. But like with them, it's just kind of like, well, that's just the way it is. That dude said that, actually, that's the way it is, and I think that like actually adds a lot. Like, you know, like I remember we watched Mission Impossible 3 together, and my two favorite scenes in that film were like, the fact that you never know what the rabbit's foot actually is,
and the lip reading.
No, the
part the lip reading, the rabbit, and the
the part when he gets the actual rabbit's foot, and he can go in, then he goes, "I'm coming out." Like a minute later, he's like, "I'm coming out," and he just jumps out a window. I'm like, I actually think it's way better that I have no idea what the hell he just did.
We know one crazy. He had to jump out way later than lower than he wanted to.
I was actually dealing with this really recently because I'm working on the comic I'm doing for the anthology is involved in like a world that's a mixture of magic and modern stuff. And more in the Miyazaki, like the Japanese style way, because the difference I was discussing was you go into the Harry Potter world and you walk down Diagon Alley and shit's blowing up and people have their arms shrinking and growing and it's like this is magic, woohoo, and it's insanity. But then you go into Kiki's Delivery Service and it's just like the mom does a little thing on a potion.
It's functional.
That's it. She says, "I'm going away," and she flies off on a broom. That's it. And it's like, it's less in your face.
It's not a rainbow stream.
And I really love
have some jelly beans. You have to catch them, folks.
Exactly. It's just like everything is a to-do, and it seems that the society is so dysfunctional because of it. It's like, how do you get anything done? Everyone's throwing up in each other's faces, and bricks are yelling at you, and it's like, this makes it's Toontown basically. It was the Harry Potter Diagon Alley, and I'm surprised like London doesn't notice what's going on. It's like, what the hell is going on behind that wall?
They're too polite to ask.
But it goes to that.
That would be the best if Harry Potter just everybody knows. But the wizards are like, we're keeping it shh. All the people are like, oh, the wizards. There's fucking wizards.
They're part of that lot there. A little strange.
Don't talk to them.
But that's the one thing I really love about like all of us Studio Ghibli's work. It's just everything is. You understand it because you're there already. You don't have to. Nothing has to be spelled out. This is a world of giants, wolves and monsters. That's their reality. Now live in it.
Why is there a cat less? Doesn't matter.
Do the parents see them or not? I don't know, because there's that one scene in Totoro where the dad was clearly working and he looks in the field where the kids are growing a tree. Did he see the tree or not? I don't know. He never said he didn't. He never said he did. But it's like, there's so much more, like my hair is on its end, feeling this magic in the moment. It's just so exciting. And I really wish that I may not wish, but I want to pursue more of that style of writing. That let's not explain everything.
Some ambiguity to it.
You'd really like Tideland by Terry Gilliam.
Oh, I have not seen it.
Or anything with Terry Gilliam. It's just everything is
never seen any Terry Gilliam
stuff? Just the one with the girl.
No. I mean, I saw Time Bandits.
Jeff Bridges is
Brazil's great.
Brazil's amazing.
So you've seen
No, I meant like anything with Terry Gilliam. There tends to be a lot of ambiguity behind a lot of his work.
Time Bandits is good, and Tideland, Brazil, Fear and Loathing.
I think I've seen all of those.
Yeah.
In the past.
His movies are cursed.
Why?
Yeah,
Did
well,
they just do badly?
Funding-wise, they either lose money or people die.
What was
Man of La Mancha.
Man of La Mancha, the document? I've been meaning to watch that. Just the
Lost
movie
in La
that
Mancha,
never
yeah.
happened because everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and they got it all on film.
For sure.
Which makes for a riveting documentary. I assume. I'll have to see it. I'll cringe every minute.
I'll watch it with you. We'll make it.
Yeah, we'll both be like, oh no, this isn't gonna go well at all.
Where's the footage? It's in the back seat with the magnet. Oh no! You'll never make movies again.
Don't do it, Kelly. You'll never make it.
Steven, there'll be no computers. Terry, no movies. It's.
I think you missed the earlier part. It's the conflict of all
It's
our
the
origins. One person has to stop us, and we have to prove them wrong.
You'll never be a dancer.
You'll always be a bum.
Because what's that? That sounds eerily like
Politics, politics.
That sounds eerily like the producer of Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't remember the dude's name.
What?
There's a guy I know who worked on Pirates of the Caribbean. He was telling me about one of the producers, big gunshot.
I thought
I can't remember the guy's
I thought I borderline sounded like the gay friend in Mrs. Doubtfire. Who else set him up? Matchmaker, make me a match.
Oh,
That guy.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in. He was in Independence Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hides under his desk and he's just all scared and fat and stupid.
That's a rich
It's been a
career.
while since I watched
So did anyone land mentally on any favorite origin stories?
Oh yeah, was anyone still thinking about that?
yeah.
Doesn't have to be superhero.
Yeah, no.
It could be like that Laura Secord short was really awesome.
What?
The Canadian
Yeah.
Heritage moment. Which I don't know. It could
It
be
just-
actually.
Yeah.
Heritage moment, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Dracula, 1994 is Dracula, which is
Yeah.
playing at the Keanu Reeves Film Festival. Which I
Oh
gotta
my
go see
God,
anyway.
yes.
I guess
Can't
I'm
read
still
fast.
sort of debating what exactly can fall under the title of origins.
Have we like?
This is like
Confused
Last of
it
the
a lot?
Mohicans. We find out how he becomes the last, but it's not an origin story because we never follow him afterwards. We don't know anything. You know what I mean? Like that's a straight up story. But then there's like the manga, the Astro Boy
Yes.
remake.
Oh, Pluto.
Pluto.
By,
But I don't know if I'd call that an origin
Sawa.
story.
It's a retelling
It's
from
a
a different
retelling
angle.
from a different angle.
Oh,
and
see,
it's-
even Red Sun would fall under that.
and so
Yeah,
it's
Follows
tricky.
different characters.
It's tricky to say. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I guess that comes to it. Like, is an origin only for something that's retold, or is it something that has a prequel?
yeah, like does there have to be something?
Or is
that
an origin
comes
the first
after,
5 minutes
or-
of a
You know,
movie?
I
Like,
have
there
something
you
on
go.
the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me later, so I'll post it on the Facebook page. And it's weird how, have you ever had it where something's so vivid in your mind, yet you still can't grasp it?
Yeah.
But I know that I saw an origin story in theaters, be it for a superhero or not. And when it came to the moment where they took up what made them
Yes.
who they are,
Yeah.
everyone in the theater got excited.
Yeah.
And something caught us off guard, and we went, "Of course!"
Exactly.
And it won't come to me, so I will post it on Facebook. But a runner-up is James Bond, the Daniel Craig series.
Okay.
I would have to say most certainly Skyfall. This will actually tie into your villains as well as origins. By the final few frames of the second last scene in Skyfall, it is a perfect reboot of the Golden Age Bond.
Really?
Yeah, right down to who M is, and there are a lot of things. I'm not gonna spoil too much more if you haven't seen Skyfall.
I gotta watch all the Daniel Craig's. I gotta sit down.
Just watch it because
Yeah.
they do origins on. Honestly, all the characters are taken care of
Yeah.
by the end of it, and it's just even the tone of it. That's what they captured. The tone. It wasn't someone.
And that's
picking
what we
up-
talked about earlier.
Exactly.
It's not all the pieces necessarily.
No,
but
they
the
captured
feel.
everything they needed.
Yeah.
It was very well done.
Whatever
I have
serves it best.
Skyfall's right up there.
Going back to sort of that definition or that question is like, an origin can also be if you just have an image of what that end result is, because Vagabond.
Yeah.
That we're reading.
Yeah.
The story of Yamato Musashi, right? And his,
Yeah, how
and
Musashi came
that
to be.
is that is an origin
The article
story.
I saw when I was
Right, that is an
11,
origin
12
story
volume
because
book
It's as
origin
long as
story.
and it's
You
gonna
didn't-
be
you
his
weren't
whole
there when
career. I didn't
the
go.
guy had his
I want to
show
go,
in
man.
Komodo, and oh my god, I actually
came
have
to
never.
Toronto?
No, this is when I lived in Japan.
Yes.
okay.
So,
He
yeah,
had
we-
this
so
show
it
in,
was
like,
actually he lived where.
That was the first time I cried at an art gallery. Was going through that show. I was like, holy
His
shit,
work's
that is
phenomenal.
heavy
So
as
I would probably say Vagabond would probably be my favorite. origin
Vagabond.
story.
So how Musashi came
How
to be.
Musashi became the
Yeah.
sword fighter.
Okay, cool. I'd like
Yeah, and it's just the artwork is just so phenomenal.
This just randomly came to mind when I said Musashi. I like how we contrived that Blanca from Street Fighter came to be or whatever it was. It's like some dude was walking by in Brazil and like a bucket fell on him from an airplane and he became Blanca because there was toxic crap in it. It's just so simple.
Always toxic
It's
shit
just
involved.
bonk.
And yours literally fell from the fucking sky.
You know, but the other half was people thought because when Alpha came out, they're like, that was Charlie because that's what they did in the movie. But I don't know if it's canonical if Charlie became Blanca or if he was just a misfortunate dude in the wrong place at the right time. Because now he rolls across the screen. It's awesome.
What about you guys? How are you feeling for Origins?
You got anything?
You go
Mega
first.
Man, we got lots. He was a robot. He still is a robot. Mega Man.
Super fighting.
Anyways, I've been thinking about. I sort of was mulling this over for the entire week.
Putting a
In
lot of
regards
thought.
to origin stories, there was a specific case of a reboot that pissed off a lot of people. People have been spitting hot coals about it for a while.
Which one?
And it sort of raises
So
the
many.
question. It raises the question:
one
how
didn't?
much of your character, like, do you own as the writer?
Yeah.
If you like
Oh,
inherit
God.
it?
Yeah.
Because like people are really pissed off about the new Devil May Cry.
Oh, interesting.
I thought it was a
interesting.
really
A lot of people
interesting
were really
place that
into
they're
it,
taking it.
Yeah, I thought
very
it had
interesting.
like a conscience. It had social commentary in it.
But I
Like,
thought that was
what's the
only just
problem?
because purely on just like the way he looked.
Yeah,
I
like
think, yeah,
I
people
really
were like,
like
his
dig
hair,
it, though.
his
I
hair
dig
is
it.
different.
No, I thought I thought it's like,
They
oh,
saw his
he's
black hair and they just threw their
People are
arms
always
out.
going to be adverse to
Like
this.
that black hair and that hipster hairdo.
That was it.
It's like,
That was
it was like,
basically
alright, that's endgame.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, if it's a good retelling.
Do you know what? Do you know what a good example is of a cookie cutter origin story that that doesn't take any risks and just puts in what we were saying earlier, the elements of what makes the person the person.
Yeah.
The first act of Indiana Jones' Last Crusade.
Oh, he gets
Snake
the
freaked the
cut
shit out
and
of
a
That
snake,
whole look at
and
that
It
in
all
a,
happens
in
at
a
once.
single day.
That train was
the
a train from
snakes,
hell.
the whip, and everything. It's like from
And then the hat.
from caboose to caboose,
All on
he
the same
becomes
train.
I had
Indiana
nightmares.
Jones.
I never thought about that.
snake
No,
could
actually.
be-
That right there is
that was a lot in one.
Now that is an example. I'm going to tell you another story that will inform why I'm mentioning Indiana Jones. Gus Van Sant did a shot-for-shot remake of Psycho.
Yeah.
And what a lot of
yeah.
people said, it was a commercial and critical failure, but what a lot of people said was this is a perfect example of why we do not remake things shot for shot. This is why we take liberties and we have to change.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more.
Wow.
And
To be
then
fair though, I did love Sin City, and it looks just like the book.
that one was that's an adaptation.
Yeah,
that's an
that's fair.
yeah.
But that's an interesting point. Yeah, the whole thing was exactly as it was. I haven't actually seen that yet. I feel like I have to add that to my
Yeah.
list.
So when you are approaching an origin story, I would say don't be so cold as to only put in the elements that people recognize. For instance, if I were to write an origin story about a character I know nothing about, like if someone knew nothing about Thor, they would just go off of what they picked up through osmosis. Oh, a hammer and lightning, and he's got to be Nordic. Yeah, done. And those are three really big qualities, but that's not Thor. We proved that at the beginning of his own movie, where that shit was taken away.
There was a scene cut where him and Loki were all being chummy and making jokes before the ceremony. It's all like, haha, I turned that cup into a snake. He's like, oh, Loki. Like, oh, so brother.
He's at it again.
Yeah, but they
Never
cut that
low
scene.
key, is he?
Yeah.
He's licking his boot for a face kicking for that pun.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go. I should probably hang up the comedian mantle.
Any more favorite origins, or should we wrap things up? What we got?
Well-
Who didn't speak?
The closest one I can think of, especially if we talk about villains and remakes and everything, it will be Michael Myers in Halloween. Because of all the horror villains that I could think of, Michael Myers is the one that almost nobody has touched a lot, especially since the Rob Zombie remake and after all the franchise that happened before. It's just something that it explains what happened to the kid, but it doesn't really explain what really put him in through his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So it still gives him a
Right, he
strong-
was growing up always labeled.
He was going into a really his family was like totally screwed. It was like really bad, but none of them had any signs of just going total mental and starts killing everybody. So that's the whole thing. And when they talk about the whole process when he was in the asylum, in the hospital, in the mental hospital, and when they always keep that creepy monologue with the doctor, I forgot his name, but the doctor talks about it, and he's just like, I saw the devil's eyes in it, and it always brings me chills, like about how it's just
On that note,
you cannot even explain it.
How did you feel about Freddy Krueger, someone taking another horror character? Who otherwise, I mean, these are Mike Myers, like all of the slasher movie characters. These are all people who are just killing machines that are fleshy. I mean, they didn't necessarily all have deep origin stories. Did they? And so Freddy Krueger was an interesting take because I really liked the reboot on him, and I liked his origin in that.
The origin different?
They approached it more human. They made him like a guy who gets lit on fire by these horrible town people who think that he's like doing bad things to kids and such. But I don't know, like it was. I just really appreciated how they went about it. One thing that you'll pick up when you listen to Max Landis on Nerdist, I agree with this point, is that an origin story doesn't have to be grungy and real. Yeah. Because there's a weird pattern that Hollywood's following. Dark. Yeah, Hollywood's following. Like the more dark and like really shoot it on something horrible. It's like, like the more gritty it looks. Like if it looks like a documentary, that shit's real. Yeah, it's like real is better. It's like that's not better. Like he'd still give us some quality here.
Wait, so the one you're talking about that we should check out, which episode is this?
Oh yes, of the Nerdist. Just look for the name. It's Max Landis. It's John Landis' kid. He talks about nepotism as well. He's like, there's no nepotism for success in Hollywood. He's like, I'm not sure if you noticed, but my dad hasn't exactly made a film lately. But I know he's a really, really...
you have to watch his Death of Superman, but
his Death of Superman's fantastic.
It's on YouTube.
Is John Landis in the podcast?
No, he isn't. No, just Max, his son, and he's just honestly, your heart will be pounding. He's a treat to listen to.
And Chronicle, right?
He wrote Chronicle. Yeah,
I liked Chronicle.
So, and you know what? Here's the thing. I only found out about Landis from this podcast. And I loved him. I heard him. I mean, he's a guy in his 20s, and I really related to him on a lot of personal levels, and that made me bitter. Like, you know how the artist in us is sometimes like, well, we get petty and jealous. It's in waves. For 20-minute waves. And, like, I got over it immediately. And I was actually determined to not enjoy Chronicle. And when I watched it, and I'm like, okay, let's see if he's all concept and no quality. Well, that's the thing. Let's see if his dialogue holds up or anything. Not only did the dialogue hold up, but he had some elements in that film that was just brilliant. Like his characters addressed. One thing he had trouble with was differentiate. Dave, you were mentioning how you didn't like all your characters sounding like yourself. He had a couple of scenes where it was like Max talking to Max. And it was like, because as you know, Chronicle is just a bunch of kids with superpowers and they're filming themselves. Well, he goes, since you're behind the camera, we don't get to know you, do we? Well, telekinesis. Now the camera's filming all of us. I just use my mind to move it. I was like, that's brilliant. You just solved like a huge problem.
The shaky cam problem too. It's nice stable telekinesis.
And that's how they did it. Now you've got a little home video camera. It was so smart. And honestly, when you listen to this podcast and you hear his movie pitch, like it'll put my Han Solo one to shame as well. Like his pitch is amazing.
All right, I really gotta listen to this one.
Okay.
We will post a link.
Please listen to it. Comment on Facebook what you guys thought of it as well. Like,
So do you go through everybody?
Did anyone else have an origin? Favorite origin?
Okay.
We good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, that was long, hearty, Oreo-filled talk about origins.
Oh yeah, we did finish it.
Cool. Origins. Where you coming from? That's how it goes.
Very profound.
Find out more about Right Night by joining the Facebook group. It's on Facebook.